Hello. Uh, so, obviously, this is going to be a One Piece video, even though I'm wearing a Black Clover shirt, and I'm a Pokemon in the background. Um, so I know that since Yamato has been introduced in One Piece, there's been lots of theories, thoughts about who her mother is. And there's some where I'm just like, I can buy that, and the other ones where it's just like, yeah, I can see that, and it's just like, I can see the logic behind some of these. And then there's other ones where it's just like, we may just not have been introduced to the character. So I was just kind of going to go through some of the different possibilities that people have put up for who her mother could be, and then just to my thought on who her mother is. Um, so, in regards to this, in regards to facts that we know about Yamato and Kaido in regards to their timelines, we know that Yamato is 28 years old. Birthplace is unknown, but given the fact that different timeline things that we've gotten in regards to Kaido within the last couple of chapters, it has been kind of determined that she may have been born at the very least, like before they got to Wano, and then most of her memories are just being on Wano and Onigashima and everything like that. We of course know that Yamato was of course at the execution of Kazuki Oden and everything and saw the legendary hour and has thus since idolized him. But we're not going to talk about that at the moment. So Yamato is 28 years old. In regards to Kaido's timeline, Kaido himself is 59 years old. We got that recently. We know that 40 years ago, he joined the Rocks Pirates. So when he was about 19, he joined the Rocks Pirates, or at least somewhere in that time frame he joined. I apologize if I sound a little bit stuffed up. And then 38 years ago, in regards to that range or so with the God Valley incident, we know that that was when he got the Ua no Mi from Big Mom. That's when she gave him the fruit, and he gained the power of that devil fruit. And then from there, we know that just around that same time frame, literally within that day, is when the Rocks crew disbanded and they all went their separate ways. You know, Big Mom went back to Totland, or what would be Totland. All the others scattered. We know somewhere between 38 and 29 years ago, he was captured and experimented on at Punk Hazard, probably by Vegapunk and the world government and other variations. They took blood samples from him. He was there for possibly there for a while. We don't know exactly where, but that's of course where he found King, and where the two of them, started the formation of the Beast Pirates. Sometime in that time frame, he also found Queen after that, and then since Jack is the same age as Yamato, and I don't think that Kaido found Jack as a baby. We don't know exactly when Kaido found Jack, but Yamato and Jack are the same age. So is Momonosuke, but he's not really involved in this video at the moment. But the other thing is that 38-ish years ago is when Yamato was born, and sometime in that time frame between when Yamato was born and 25 years ago is when Kaido and Orochi ended up having this agreement where Kaido came and, took over Onigashima and, started to build his house, which it took he's like when he's in his sad, drunk dragon phase, he's just like, this took 5 years to build and now I'm going to have to rebuild all over again. So that's another reason kind of why I wanted to do this video is we saw, within the last chapter, I know this is coming out like a week after the chapter came out, but still, in that chapter we saw him go through all of his different drunk phases: crying drunk, sad drunk, laughing drunk, angry drunk, whatever, all those different drunk phases. And one thing that we may end up getting is either as he sobers up during the fight, or possibly after he loses the fight with Luffy, Yamato may show back up and say something, and we may get a little more information. We may get a Kaido flashback, Kaido flashback, where we get maybe a little bit more information about oh, this is where he was born, because we don't know where Kaido was born. He says that he has Oni blood, which, him and Yamato have Oni blood. That's where they have the horns and everything like that. And Kaido is clearly not 100% human. I would also say that Big Mom possibly has giant in her somewhere in the back, in her lineage factor, as they refer to it as. She may have something of giant related in her, but we're not sure. And with Kaido, we know that sometime in that time frame between when the Rocks crew fell, when Rocks died, whatever happened at God Valley, And 28 years ago, he found a woman, in my opinion, probably a quite strong woman in the fact that Kaido decided to have a child with her and keep the child. That either A, said woman was possibly another pirate that he had interacted with, and I will be going over those, one of those possibilities. And the other one is that, of course, it's just some other woman that he, met, and that she impressed him enough that he wanted to have a child with her. Or at the very least, that he had a long enough relationship with her to A, have a child, and B, be around her when the child was born, and then either A, took the child with him, or wife was with him for a while, and then, insert whatever thing happened. So those are basically just kind of the rough timeline for what we know about Kaido, because we don't know that much about what happened to him between the time when the Rocks Pirates fell and when Kaido, took over Onigashima and when Yamato was born. I would say that I highly doubt Yamato was born on Onigashima because, Kaido said it took 5 years to build the mansion, and 20 years ago was when he fought Odin, and he's like, oh, I just finished my house, and I don't want to destroy the house that I just built, my giant mansion instead of the skull on an island that's shaped like a skull and has horns and whatever. So here we go into just some of the thoughts for who Yamato's mother would be, and I had to slip up there obviously. So the first option, and this is the main one that a lot of people have pointed out, is Big Mom, Charlotte Linley, who is 68 years old. We know that she was on the Rocks Pirates crew with Kaido, so they knew each other. She's the one that gave him the devil fruit, and there were a whole bunch of theories floating around that Katakuri, Daifuku, and Oven are Kaido's other children that he had with Big Mom while they were on the Rocks crew. We haven't gotten an answer to this. It might be true, it might not. If that is the case, then either A, those three are Yamato's older half-siblings, her older half-brothers, or they are just, her full siblings if Yamato is Big Mom's daughter. And I talked about this in one of my previous videos in the past. I don't remember if it was the Mother's Day video or one of the other videos that I did for the One Piece parents, family members. But I did make the mention of the fact that if by chance Yamato is Big Mom's daughter, Big Mom and Kaido's daughter, if Big Mom is Yamato's mother, then Yamato would have been born between when Prim and Praline, the two half mermaid, fishmen were born, mermaids were born, and would have been born between that and when she had a set of triplets that were born just after that are Kenton, Kato, and I can't pronounce the names. I'm sorry. These are a lot of weird food names that are not something I'm familiar with saying. And they're not major characters in the story in regards to the fighting. I mean, Praline is fairly major in the fact that she's the one that married Aladdin, and I went over that and other things. So Praline we know a fair amount about, but she would have been born within that time frame or just after those triplets were born. But given the fact of how close in time that Linlin tends to have her children, that's probably very unlikely. And also the fact that Linlin has kept every single child that she's had. Yeah, she's not the best mother in regards to things, but she's kept every child she's had as far as we are aware. I know that there was a theory that Jewelry Bonnie was one of Big Mom's children, a Big Mom's daughter that ran away or something, but that's been disproven. But there's a few other things that we see in regards to that. And I mean, admittedly, Linlin does seem to be a very logical choice for Kaido to choose to have a child with, particularly if the fact of if by chance Katakuri, Daifuku, and Oven are his sons. First of all, the only thing that shows any kind of odd trait is Katakuri's, teeth and everything, his eel mouth, which, it's either that, if they are his children, he's just Linlin had them while they were on the crew, and either A, she didn't tell him that they were his, or B, he knows, but he just doesn't care. And he had no interest in them because none of them looked like they were born with the Oni blood, because they didn't have horns or anything like that, because none of the three of them do. And then if it was the case that he saw how strong Linlin's own children were, and the fact that, she gave him this devil fruit, they possibly at least got along to some degree. Given the fact that she gave him this devil fruit to save his life implies that they got along at least to some degree on the Rocks Pirate on the crew. And, you know, in regards to that, it could just be that Linlin was just like, okay, yeah, um, I'll have another child with you. You know, you're strong, I'm strong. You know, kind of like maybe made a deal with her that it's just like, oh, we'll have another child together, or we'll have a child together, because clearly a lot of your children are very strong, probably using katakuri, and some of the other older children as like a very good example of that are quite strong, and a child born from both of us would probably be very strong and also have a high likelihood of having conqueror's haki. I mean, just because your parents have conqueror's haki doesn't mean that you do, but we have seen in the fact that Kaido has conqueror's haki, so does Yamato. Linlin has conqueror's haki, so does Katakuri. We don't know if any of her other children have conqueror's haki, but the other one of that is, you know, Roger had conqueror's haki and Ace has conqueror's haki, even though he never really used it that much. So there is that possibility there, and like maybe like if both of your parents have conqueror's haki, then maybe you have a higher likelihood of having it. And Kaido may have just been like, you know, if the child is born with, you know, Oni features, horns, whatever the case may be, I get to take the child with me. And that could have been the deal that he made with Linlin. And if that is the case, and, you know, Yamato is Linlin's daughter, I don't really have a problem with that. That doesn't really change anything in the story. It's just like, oh, okay. But I don't think that's the case. Moving on to one of the other theories that I saw that some people are like, oh, this could be Yamato's mother, is Gloricia, or Granny slash Elder Nyon from the Kuja tribe from Amazon Lily. So, yeah, old tiny woman that argues with Boa Hancock a lot. Okay, so the basis for this theory, this is not my theory, I've seen this a few other times, is that she was an Empress of Amazon Lily at one point in time. Nyon was. That is stated that at one point in the past, she was an Empress of Amazon Lily. And then what happened was she fell prey to the, you know, the love sickness, the disease that afflicts, you know, different, you know, Empresses of Amazon Lily at times. That, you know, oh, they fell in love with a man, and like they can't, you know, they can't live without them. You know, they can't ignore their feelings for the man. And, you know, we saw this with Hancock and Luffy, and the fact that, you know, she helped him because of the love sickness and everything. And, you know, okay, nothing against Hancock. I just don't care that much for her. She is beautiful. She is strong. I ain't denying that. That is not something I'm going to argue with. She's beautiful. She's strong. She protects her sisters and her island and her people and everything. And she does care about Luffy and everything. And he kind of seems to bring out like the nicer side with her and everything. But I'll just state this here in regards to Hancock. Has no bearing on this video, but just because, yes, she's pretty. Yes, she's strong. I just don't care for her as a person, because she like hurts animals just because they're, you know, cute and in her way, and she's mean to small children, and, you know, all this other stuff. And, you know, I don't blame her for the way that she feels about men in regards to what happened to her and her sisters via celestial dragons and everything, but I just don't care that much for her in regards to her personality. And yeah, go ahead, say whatever you want. I prefer Nami and Robin more than that, or, you know, some of the other people that we've seen. But Hancock and the way that she treats other people, or, you know, she kicks small animals out of the way. I don't like that. But Granny Nyon stated that she herself had been afflicted with this illness, as had her predecessor, and it had killed her predecessor. So when, you know, Granny Nyon fell in love with whoever it was she fell in love with, we never get a name for who this person was. Probably male, though, given the fact that she had to leave Amazon Lily, because I don't think they frown upon like two women on Amazon Lily falling in love with each other. That seems kind of stupid. But what happened was she left Amazon Lily and, you know, traveled for a while, somehow became friends with like Rayleigh and Chalky, given the fact that like she was around Rayleigh and Chalky when they were helping out the three Kuja sisters, you know, the Gorgon sisters, when they were children, or after they escaped from Marijwa and everything. But one of the other things is that she also seems to be quite strong in her own way. And, you know, we don't know her exact age. I could not find anything that stated how old she was, but given how old she looks, I would say she's at least in her 60s. At the very least, if not older than that. But we don't get an exact age on her. And we never know if she had any children. And if it was that Kaido, you know, if it was that she and Kaido had like crossed paths at some point in time, you know, because we don't know the exact time frame for when she had left Amazon Lily and everything like that. And we don't, we just don't know exactly how all of her timeline pieces line up for her. But it could have been that, oh, she found, her and Kaido interacted at some point in time, and maybe she impressed him enough that they had a child together. They had a relationship and had a child together, and then she just decided that I can't stay here anymore. I need to go back to Amazon Lily at some point in that time frame. And then, Kaido then had Yamato with him. But I just don't see that quite working out in regards to those timelines, because she would have still had to have been off Amazon Lily in regards to helping with Hancock and her sisters in regards to being around them with Shaki and Rayleigh. So I don't quite think that lines up too well. The other thought, and this was more just like a brief fleeting thought that I think a lot of people had when they saw the character, was Black Maria. Now, when we first met Black Maria, we did not know what her age was. Since then, we have learned that she is 29 years old. She's a year older than Yamato. And obviously, she could not be Yamato's mother if she is only 1 year older than Yamato. If it was like 17, 18 years older than Yamato, then I can say, okay, we have a highly likely candidate here. But that's not the case. So before we knew her age, a lot of people thought that Black Maria could be Yamato's mother, given the fact that she has the horns the same way that Yamato and Kaido do. She's quite strong. She's very, tall and everything. Also, Linlin and Kaido also have like a very, they're around the same height. I think Linlin is just a little bit taller than Kaido, if I remember correctly. And then Granny Nyon is tiny, and Yamato is a lot smaller than Kaido. So it could just be that like Yamato's mother may have just had like less Oni blood, or she may have just been shorter than Kaido. And then Yamato, Yamato's still taller than Luffy, so Yamato is not short by any means, and like Luffy's not that much taller than me. I'm 5'6", Luffy is not that much taller than I am, or he's around the same height I am. Yamato is quite a bit taller than Luffy, and like Kaido has to like look down to look at Yamato in regards to the height comparisons with that. So yeah, when we were first introduced to Black Maria, there was the thought that, oh, Black Maria could be Yamato's mother, once we found out that like Kaido had a child. Now if the child was like maybe only like like less than 10 years old, then I could see that being the possibility. It also was stated that like that if I remember correctly from what I saw in the Viver cards or so, or from in the stuff, that Black Maria was like born on Wano, which I'm just like, I don't know if that would make sense, but we don't know anything about, like, we haven't seen like everything else that's in Wano. And they have a giant skull that clearly is the skull of an ancient giant, and that can house Kaido's huge freaking mansion where all of these battles are happening, and give like the dome for like this huge, top of the dome where they can have this huge battle between him and the Minks, and then the Scabbards, and then the worst generation guys, and then Yamato, and now Luffy, and then all this other stuff. So it's like this whole cacophony of like, how big is this thing? And I don't think we've gotten any specific size comparisons in regards to how big Onigashima is. Yeah, there was a thought, and and the other part that kind of encouraged us was the fact that Black Maria seems to be very flirtatious with Kaido and everything towards her captain, and like referring to him like not like with pet names, but referring, preferring to say, stay by his side and everything, enjoy his company and everything. She seems to like fawn over him quite a bit. So there, and she's also like one of the few women that's around that's clearly within Kaido's, size range. Yeah. Because like, yeah, giant freaking ogre thing that's like 50 some. No, he's not 50 some feet tall. I don't remember how tall Kaido was, but he's very, very tall. And Black Maria is quite tall too, and she's right within that size range, because like we see them sitting next to each other, and she's around the same height as he is. So there was that thought, but that's disproven by the fact that she's only, 1 year older than Yamato. There was also this other side thought that like Toki was Yamato's mother at one point in time, but no, because Yamato and Momo are the same age. They're both, chronologically 28 years old. and there's not, there wouldn't have been enough time in there for like, and I don't remember which one, like if they've given exact birthdays on them. I don't remember if like Yamato was born earlier or later than Momo, but they're supposed to be pretty much the same age, which is just funny. And there was that thought of like Toki, but I'm just like, no, it's not Toki. She would not do that to Kai. She would not do that to Odin. She knew Toki is either dead slash dying and either popped herself into the future as far into the future as she could, or whatever happened with that. We'll see. Which now brings me to the final bit for this video in regards to who I think that Yamato's mother is. Now, I've had this theory for a little while, and I'm working on like a fan fiction that's a One Piece fan fiction, and like there's certain things in regards to like Yamato's mother would be a rather important character for part of that. Now, one of the thoughts that I had is we see that Kaido drinks a lot. Of course, that's set up pretty much from the very beginning, from when we're first physically introduced to Kaido. He drinks a lot. He likes to sit in the cave and drink and everything, and he drinks a lot at the party, and he's, like drunk earlier on. Now he's going through all of his sad, crying, happy, laughing, drunk phases and everything like that he's doing right now against Luffy on the roof and everything. I do like the sad dragon one is my favorite. He's just like, ugh, I'm gonna have to rebuild everything. This is ridiculous. That was just my favorite one, I think. But we see him drinking so much throughout the time frame. And like he's like drinking when like Doflamingo gets taken away to impel down and everything. And so it's like he drinks a lot. We see him drink quite a lot when he's younger and everything too. When like him and when he's at the execution of Odin, he's drinking quite a bit too. And a lot of people take it as like he's drinking because he can't be Joy Boy. He, all these great fighters that he's fought against in the past, Rocks, Rogers, Shanks, Odin, insert whoever else that he's fought in the past. All of them except Shanks are now dead, and he's really enjoying this battle with Luffy, which we're seeing now. That's why he's going through all of his drunk phases. He's really enjoying the battle. And it could just be that like Luffy and him, like Luffy will still, via context of the story, either A, Luffy will beat Kaido, and either Kaido will A, die, or B, get captured by CP0 since they're there, or he will, just kind of be left to his own devices to just lay there in his own self-pity, I guess, for a while, and have more reasons to drink. But one of the thoughts I had for why he drinks is, and on top of that, it's also like, my own daughter worships the man that I killed, once idolizes the man that I shot in the head after boiling him in oil for an hour. I wonder why she doesn't like me. I can think of a few reasons why Yamato doesn't like you. That, beating her, starving her, locking her in a cave, putting explosive handcuffs on her. Multiple reasons why your own daughter wouldn't like you. But in regards to Yamato, or in regards to my thought in regards to Kaido's wife / Yamato's mother, Kaido's lover, Yamato's mother, whatever one you want to go with in regards to that wife, lover, whatever. My thought is that she's just a character that we haven't been introduced to yet. And if I am proven wrong via theory, whatever, via explanation, then that's fine. But in regards to Yamato's mother, my take is that she died at some point. Died or left, one of the two. And that's one of the other reasons why Kaido drinks so much. Is because he's upset about the fact that he couldn't even keep his own wife around. That this, woman that he chose to have a child with and raise the child, that he's just upset about the fact that he couldn't even make her stay. That's like, I'm so strong and everything, but I couldn't even make her stay, this woman that I loved. Because let's put it this way. If Kaido, who has one child as far as we are aware, yes, he's been a better father to like Jack and Ulti and Page 1 and to a degree King in regards to, being protective of King than he ever was for Yamato. In regards to Kaido, we do not know how the relationship was between Kaido and Yamato before everything happened with Odin. And I think I went over this in my Father's Day video in regards to when I discussed Kaido and Yamato and their relationship. We do not know what that relationship was like before everything happened with Odin. It may have been that they had a very good relationship, And, Kaido may have still been like a rather tough father and everything, but he may have been at least much more gentle with Kaido, or with the Yamato at the time. And then everything happened with Odin, and then just, things compiled, and, then he just became what he is now. And my thought for the mother is that sometime between when he, was, after the end of the Rocks Pirates, he was captured in there somewhere by the world government, held at, Punk Hazard for however long, eventually broke out, took King with him, and they escaped. And then they started to form the Beast Pirates. Somewhere in that time frame, they probably found Queen after he was no longer with Mads, and, started to gather up more and more, crew members. And sometime in that time frame, my thought is that he fell in love with a woman. He found a woman who may have had Oni blood like him, and they ended up falling in love. She impressed him so much. Maybe she was one of the people that could like stand up against him to a degree, or she was like one of these other strongest people that he's interacted with. It's just that he felt differently about her than he felt about like a bunch of the other people that he's interacted with in regards to, fighting against them, like with Rox and Roger and, all of them, and Odin. That he may have figured out that, oh, this woman is different than most of the other ones. She can physically stand up to fighting against me. She can, take a fair number of my attacks head on. She can actually, make me have fun in a fight and everything. And she's also maybe very beautiful and smart or so. Because, no offense, Kaido does not strike me as the kind that would go for the dits, quote unquote. Because if Black Maria Black Maria flirts with him so much, she is not a ditz. She is clearly not a ditz. And, Kaido does not strike me as the kind that would fall for the, oh my god, Master Kaido, you are so handsome and strong and all of this other stuff, and you're just so strong. Oh, I don't think that he would fall for that. That does not strike me as something that Kaido would be interested in long term. Short term, possibly. One night stand, possibly. Long term, not so much. So my thought, and just because I needed to come up with something that would work for like a representation of just who Yamato's mother is, that also happens to be a quote unquote Oni, I went with Shion from that time I got reincarnated as a slime, because I like the show and it's funny and the manga is funny. And she still kind of fits the One Piece stereotype with the really big boobs. And she's very strong in the series. She's one of the strongest fighters that like they have in the series and everything. And she has like this giant sword that she uses. So she qualifies for Kaido's interest of, Oni girl with a big weapon. We don't know where he falls on his body type, but that at least seems to be somewhat of his type. Oni looking woman with a big weapon. And I just decided to go with her. And she also has a very nice figure as well. So I was just going to use her as like an example of something that might be like what Kaido's, girlfriend, wife, whatever looked like, Yamato's mother. And, Yamato obviously has more of the horns on the side of her head the way that Kaido does. But in, there's no specific definition for what an Oni has to look like. In regards to One Piece, obviously they have the horns, but other than that, it could just be that they could have a horn that goes here instead, but we don't know. That comes out of, like a unicorn type horn, or could have more than two horns or something, or may only have one horn. We don't know. So my thought was that, sometime in that time frame, Kaido met this woman, Shion, just for the sake of calling her that, so I have her, a name to use, as opposed to saying that woman over and over again, that he met her, and they, for all intents and purposes, fell in love, and she got pregnant. Maybe they got married in that time frame, either before or after. And she was, part of the crew that traveled with them and everything like that. And, had Yamato. And then sometime in that time frame, they ended up getting like sometime in that time frame, she, the thought is either A, she died in childbirth. That something, complications with childbirth, and she died. Yamato was born healthy, but Shion died, and then Kaido just kind of always has like this, animosity toward, Yamato, and then it just accelerates later on because of what happens with Odin. Or it could have been that Shion lived for a while and then something happened. Either she got sick and she died, or it could have been that like maybe they had gotten into a fight with another crew at some point in time, or with the Marines or something, and she got extremely injured and died, or fatally injured and died, or she just left. That's the other thought of like she just left. She saw what Kaido was becoming, and maybe she tried to take Yamato with her, or maybe she thought that, well, maybe Kaido won't be as bad to Yamato if I'm not around, or whatever the case was, and like she just left. Because that would also qualify for like if it was Elder Nyon, then like she just left at some point in time, and like Kaido just became distraught and just drank more and more. Because, even though we've never heard of Kaido having a wife, the fact that he has a child implies that at some point in time he was in some form of a committed relationship with someone, with a woman. And the reasons she would have to be someone who would at the very least be able to hold his attention for a decent amount of time. And, we don't really know too much else about anything like that. We might get something where like after the battle, when we get like Kaido's flashback, or like sometime at the end of the battle or so between him and Luffy, that maybe we get this big flashback with Kaido where like we see him, flashes of him being on the Rocks crew, flashes of him, fighting against Roger or Whitebeard, or flashes of him, all this other stuff, flashes of him, like a little bit more of like his childhood, like where he came from. Maybe we do get something where we get a little bit more, time frame in regards to, oh, well, I have to, finding this woman. And, maybe we do see that maybe they were at least happy for a little while, and then things happened, and either she didn't approve of what he was doing anymore, and she left and just didn't take Yamato with her, or couldn't take Yamato with her because it was hard enough for her to escape. Or she died. Or she could just still be around, and she's just like somewhere on Onigashima and just has no interest in what's going on right now. Or whatever the case may be. She just may have no interest in what's going on right now with the battle and everything. And she's just like, nope, I'm just going to stay in my room. Someone like runs in, finds her, whatever. Mistress, whatever the heck, Mistress Shion, the entire island is flying. I'm aware of this. So it's like sits there and drinks her tea. It's like her handmaidens around her, like, I'm aware that my husband is flying the island. My observation hockey also tells me that there's another small pink dragon trying to pull the island in the opposite direction. I'm also aware of my daughter running around and trying to destroy the explosives, and that there are lots and lots of battles going on right now, and that my husband is currently fighting on the roof. We don't know. It could be that, it could not. We don't know. She may be somewhere in the castle, in the castle, or maybe she left Onigashima at some point in time before everything happened. She's like, I really don't want to be around here while you have like your big party and everything, so I'm just gonna go and hang out on like wherever area in like Wano that's like much quieter, and maybe that's where she goes whenever the fire festival is happening, because she's just like, I don't care that much for the big parties. I'll see you in the morning, honey. And like goes and like leaves, takes like her like ladies in waiting or whatever with her, and leaves for the night. Or it could just be that she's been locked up in the rooms for the past 20 some years after everything that happened. But I highly doubt that. Also, if it was someone that was like kind of attractive to Kaido, that either A, she does not know the way that he treats Yamato because she's been locked up, or she knows and doesn't care, which does not strike me. But obviously at some point in that time frame, someone had to have been taking care of Yamato's wounds during the time frame whenever she would fight against Kaido and get like her bones broken and everything like that. Someone would have had to take care of her. It could have been Yamato. Probably eventually learned how to give herself first aid and everything, but it's also the concept of Kaido just being able to like beat up Yamato, and they like told Queen, fix her up, whatever, I don't care. Glug, glug, glug. That could have been the case too. So those were just my thoughts or my take on who Yamato's mother could be, might possibly be, possibly is. We don't know any of these circumstances at the moment, and we may never know. That's part of the thing of we may never know. The only, it's like with Linlin and all of her children, the only father that we know about is Pound for Lola and Chiffon. Whereas, we don't know who Luffy's mother is yet. We don't know who Yuzoro's parents are. Doesn't matter. Sometimes it matters a lot, sometimes it doesn't. But that's what I have. So I thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. And I hope that I feel better later. So, bye-bye. Damn it! That bull gorilla? He was seriously trying to kill me. I understand. He is not a parent anymore.